Monetary reform also obviously involves complex issues and pressing humanitarian issues such as third world debt. Third world debt was the cause célèbre of about 8-10 years ago in literature. It's now public news, but third world debt was the cause célèbre then. Now it's globalization. But they're the same thing, or different aspects of the same thing. Globalization are these large multinational corporations able to dip and choose wherever they go around a planet. And the absolute root of their power is that 2/3 of the globe is so heavily indebted, so deeply indebted, that they have to make these payments to the IMF, World Bank and commercial banks, and the only way they can do it is by exporting. Now, if you have a poor, impoverished country that wants to export, you will take any company that comes along to you and says, okay, we will buy up your copper reserves, we will contract your land to grow maize for the international maize market. Because third world countries are so deeply in debt, they have to invite and seek international investment. If third world debt were either non-existent or far lessened, then those countries wouldn't be looking to do that. They would be looking to direct their own energies at their own economic priorities, sorting out their own industrial and agricultural infrastructure. It's what they always wanted to do, and it's what they tried to do for 30 years. And far from corruption and incompetence, most of those countries have done their best to respond to the conditions they've been placed in. But without third world debt, they would certainly not welcome the multinationals. So, third world debt is very important in terms of globalization, and cancelling it is the most important thing that anybody can advocate in terms of controlling globalization. And third world debt could be cancelled tomorrow, could be cancelled yesterday. There was a debt crisis in the 1930s. An international debt crisis, a third world debt crisis if you like. In fact, third world debt crises have gone back to the previous century. In the 1930s, during the Depression, a large number of Latin American countries, and Britain, France and Italy I think as well, defaulted on their debts to the United States. Officially defaulted. Some of those debts were later restructured, but some of them have never been paid. Now that's very interesting, because those debt bonds apparently are still retained by the United States Treasury. And they retain them and they account their interest as well as their capital. They know they're never going to be paid, but they carry on with the accountancy. Now why? It's very interesting. In banking, you have two columns, assets and liabilities. If your assets, which are your loans, fall, if a debt is cancelled, as a bank you officially and legally have to transfer money from your own company reserves to boost those assets, and no bank wants to do that because they're basically saying a debt was cancelled, I had to make it up. What the US Treasury is saying, a debt was cancelled but we'll pretend it wasn't. Every time they talk about third world debt, somebody has to pay. Either the governments of the wealthy nations have to pay, or you have to pay £2.50 a week or a year or whatever it is. And so you have your consciences attacked. You're not even prepared to pay £2.50 each per year to save the third world. Aren't you bad people? Somebody's got to pay. Well, they don't. The whole point, once you understand money, is that there has been a gross over-reliance on debt to create money. And if some of these debt bonds were, on a one-off basis, cancelled, it would actually contribute to a far less aggressive international economic climate. How to do it? Quite simple. Cancel the debt bonds in terms of their application to the debtor nations. Just like that. And allow the banks to retain them as an accountancy device. It's what the US government's already doing. So, to finish off with, monetary reform is a very pressing issue. All of these matters need to be to be discussed. There are a lot of schemes that have been put forward for monetary reform, national monetary reform. 100% money by Irving Fisher, funding the national debt of a country on the basis of credit creation by the government, compensating balance schemes have been put forward, flow charts by Coma. All of these would probably work with a bit of support. None of them will work without a bit of support. Now we have the most crazy and astonishing system of debt financing at the moment, in which every pound that exists in an economy only exists because of debt. It's required in the economy, circulating as a medium of exchange. And it's being hunted by every person with a debt that created it. It's being pursued in so many quarters it's not true, because everybody wants to get out of debt. There's a double calling on this money within the economy where it's needed for payments, wages, costs, overheads, circulations, payments, etc. And every pound, dollar, yen of it is being hunted by somebody in debt. Now that's a difficult system to run, and I think sometimes they need a lot of congratulations for keeping it going. But there's political will to keep it going. And whenever the federal government, whenever the US government or the US economy is under threat, some very, very powerful influences come in. The Federal Reserve Board, some of the large corporations will buy back some of their stock. Very, very powerful. You can stop that sort of collapse. If you can stop that financial system collapsing, you could certainly manage a government-produced money supply in a non-inflationary way. It's a matter of political will. And it's not a matter of which scheme is best. And monetary reformers have often been guilty of this, of advocating their scheme. The principle is very simple. Banking as a mechanism has the ability to flood an economy with credit and drag people into debt. It needs to be restricted. Simple ways you could do this. Restriction on the house price multiplier, the income multiplier that people are allowed to apply on their mortgages. You can't take out more than 2 times your mortgage per your annual salary for a mortgage, or 1 times. A limitation of that nature, which used to apply in the past. Economists would say, oh, well, that'll throw the economy into recession. And you say, well, to compensate, the government will produce money and spend it into the economy through public services. No, that will cause the economy to have runaway inflation. Well, you can balance the one against the other. And it's a far more legitimate and prosperous and potentially a stable form of balance than running an economy on a knife edge of debt, where there's never enough money, because no matter how much money is produced, more debt is produced with it. So what I'd suggest is, as I say, for monetary reformers to beware of advocating their own schemes competitively with others. I think it's very important that this area of study comes out again, and it's starting to in several countries. It was in the 1930s. In the public domain, probably to the extent that environmentalism is today. Social credit was a worldwide force, and it's almost unheard of in the UK at the moment. But monetary reform groups are looking at this again. It will be a slow process. It will probably take a decade to the point where it is being implemented, but I think it will happen this time. And I think that Canada and the people of Coma have a great deal to be proud of for keeping the flag going, as it were, over some very barren years of the last 20 years, a very barren period, and providing at this point a platform for people such as myself and others in the UK and within Canada to relate to work from, and to liaise with. So I'm really proud, as I say, to be invited here by Coma to do this first in a series of talks.